So moving on, I'm also joined by the wonderful Charlie.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi everyone, I'm Charlie from a digital marketing agency called Exposure Ninja. We specialize in SEO, PPC, and AI search, and we're very proudly a B Corp certified agency as well, one of the few in the UK. And very excited to be here with you, Ellis, for this green marketing masterclass.
Just a little bit about myself. So I'm the head of marketing at Tunley Environmental, and Tunley Environmental is a sustainability consultancy that helps companies around the world to reduce their carbon footprint and also to enhance biodiversity. Cool, so just moving on through the learning objectives, we hope that everyone will understand green marketing versus greenwashing, learn about greenwashing guidance, learn what happens on non-compliance, learn what good green marketing looks like, to use sustainable language correctly.
I guess, what is green marketing? That's what we're beginning with. The definition from Cambridge Dictionary is the activity of trying to sell a product or the products of a particular company to consumers by emphasizing how they protect the environment. What greenwashing is, which is a behavior or activities that make people believe a company is doing more to protect the environment than it really is.
Why is it important to avoid greenwashing? It's important to avoid greenwashing for many reasons. Being caught greenwashing can harm your brand image and market position. Misleading claims can damage credibility and trust with customers. Greenwashing violates guidelines like the Green Claims Code. It detracts from genuine environmental efforts by misleading the actual impact. So many companies out there are doing really brilliant stuff in terms of working to reduce their emissions, working towards net zero, and people making false claims, it really detracts from that work. So we always want to see the verified claims. Honest claims help consumers make better, more sustainable purchasing decisions. Authentic sustainability efforts promote brand loyalty and long-term success. So I've chosen this example to start us off, as I'm sure a lot of you will be familiar with H&M and its greenwashing association. So you can see here an image of the H&M conscious label. H&M is actually being sued for false and misleading sustainability marketing in a class action lawsuit filed on July 22nd, 24. According to the H&M website, the garments in the Conscious Choice line are created with a little extra consideration for the planet, and each product contains at least 50% more sustainable materials, such as organic cotton or recycled polyester, but might contain more than that. The UK government outlined 6 musts in regard to greenwashing: creating false, inaccurate green claims, being unclear and unambiguous, omitting or hiding important information, making unfair and unmeaningful comparisons, not considering the full life cycle of the product, and being unsubstantiated with no verification. Back to H&M. H&M is alleged to have created an extensive marketing campaign to present its products as environmentally friendly when they are in fact not. The company is accused of using deceptive sustainability labelling, marketing and advertising to mislead its customers. H&M allegedly creates an illusion that old clothes are simply turned into new garments or that clothes will not end up in landfill. So the lawsuit states that recycling solutions either do not exist or are not commercially available at scale for the vast majority of H&M's products, and the full life cycle of the products have not been considered. H&M sustainability claims are all unsupported by credible data and they are not verified, but they do claim to use the HIG MSI, which stands for Materials Sustainability Index, which has faced growing criticism and recent controversy after being used by big name brands, especially in the fashion industry. So accusations have been made that the fabric ranking system favours petroleum-based synthetics over natural fibres, and the MSI is an example of a self-regulated and corporate-funded standard, which some may cast doubt on the fashion industry's approach to sustainability. So we're just going to have a look at 3 different claims, and we're going to identify whether we think that they are compliant or not compliant. We're starting off with, we are an eco-friendly company. This is a non-compliant claim. There are some arguments that if they do have the verification behind it, that it could be compliant. However, if we're being specific, this would fall down due to the fact that it is not specific. So the term eco-friendly is very broad and doesn't specify which actions or practices make the company environmentally friendly. What have you actually done? What environmental impact factors have you considered in your assessment? Who completed this for you and to what standards? It's quite vague. So without detailed information, it's unclear what eco-friendly means in this context. Does it refer to sustainable sourcing, waste reduction, energy efficiency, or something else? And also the lack of evidence. So effective green claims should be supported by evidence such as certifications, measurable outcomes, or third-party audits. The statement provides no proof or specifics that would support the claim. An alternative would be, we are a net zero company. That is really specific because we're talking about carbon specifically. We're talking about the route to net zero. Again, this has the caveat that it would have to be backed up by a verified assessment. However, it sort of gives more context about what you're actually claiming. So moving on, the next claim is our device is a minimum of 50% more energy efficient than previous models on the market. The claim provides a specific measurement. So it says a minimum of 50% more energy efficient, which clearly communicates the improvement in energy efficiency compared to previous models. And the fact that it states previous models is also important because it's defining what that comparison is. And the measurability, so the efficiency improvement is quantifiable, making it easier for customers to verify and understand the claim. And it's also transparent, so it's saying a minimum of and is not overstating. It is giving a specific figure to work off of there. So moving on from that section, what anti-greenwashing regulations are out there? So starting off in the European Union, the Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation applies to financial market participants and advisors in the EU, and it requires disclosure of sustainability risks in investment decisions and mandates reporting of adverse sustainability impacts. And it also aims to combat greenwashing and promote responsible investing. We also have the Green Claims Directive. So this one's still under development at the moment. This is very similar to the UK Green Claims Code, which is backed by the CMA. The proposed directive would require companies to substantiate the voluntary green claims they make in business to consumer practices by complying with a number of requirements regarding their assessment. For example, taking a life cycle assessment perspective. And then in the UK, we've got the Financial Conduct Authority anti-greenwashing rule, and it applies to all FCA authorised firms communicating about products and services in the UK, and it requires sustainability claims to be consistent, fair, clear, and not misleading. Finally, we've got the Competition Markets Authority Green Claims Code. The Green Claims Code applies to any environmental claims made to UK customers, whether from the UK or overseas businesses. Resellers and retailers are responsible for ensuring the accuracy of these claims on products they sell, even if they are made by others, by verifying data from suppliers. And then lastly, just looking into the US, we have the Federal Trade Commission Green Guides. And while all states have laws prohibiting unfair deceptive conduct, some states have additionally adopted green guides as standards as enforceable law. And then we've also got the extended producer responsibility laws. So 6 states have enacted broad EPR laws, while several other states have proposed EPR legislation. So what happens if companies don't comply? A statement from PwC I'll let you read and I'll just discuss. So it is key to take proper advice both on substantiating green claims to avoid investigation, and if regulatory action is commenced, to manage the process and cooperation with proper reputation management. There is a defence of due diligence when substantiating environmental claims, making it key for businesses to preemptively assess any claims they are making, including advertising, packaging, graphics, logos, or branding, to ensure that the underlying data is compliant. And here are some examples of big fines that have been issued. So Keurig, which is a coffee making company, was fined 2.2 million for misleading claims about single-use coffee pods, suggesting that they were recyclable when recyclers don't widely accept them. And then what we can do as companies to empower compliance. So External empowerment would include things such as supplier audits, and then transparent communication, and then internal empowerment. So employee training is a really big thing, and then cross-department collaboration. So moving on from empowering, over to Charlie.
Yeah, so there's a lot of benefits from compliance other than the fact of just being compliant, which in itself is, of course, a great thing. The first is offering a competitive advantage to businesses. Improving customer loyalty is another strong one here, and that's in terms of retaining those consumers long time. Building trust is a really interesting one. I read some great data on this the other day. Around 81% of people would consider trust the main factor to make a purchase from or use an organization, and that is according to the Institute of Customer Service. Supports the business in managing their reputation, and also wider sustainability goals. Also improving confidence for investors, for any kind of businesses that rely on investment for their operations. And last but probably not least, educating customers to improve their decision making as well.
Some examples of sustainability certifications here. So EcoVadis is the largest provider of certifications, and they provide a rating based on the environment, ethics, labour and human rights, and sustainable procurement. The science-based target shows businesses how quickly they need to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions to prevent the worst effects of climate change. We've also got B Corp, which assesses governance, workers, community, environment and customers. And then finally, I've got the CDP there, the Carbon Disclosure Project assessment, aligns with the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. It does this through several modules, including governance, business strategy, emissions and metric, verification, and then additional modules. It covers carbon pricing, emissions trading, biodiversity initiatives, and engagement with the value chain on climate issues.
Great, thanks, Alice. So once you've got the logo, you've gone through the accreditations, there's a question about where does the business actually put this? What does it do with it now that it's done all of the bits it needed to do to be compliant? I would say a really good place to start with this is actually the website. So there's a couple of examples that I've got here. The first is Crown Oil, who have got a really lovely benefits bar at the top of their website to say certified carbon neutral, and they've got the logo going on in the top. Another way to do it would just be using the hero image. So like the Allman Hall one here, they've got their EcoVadis logo on the blue background, so it stands out quite nicely. Going to talk about marketing messaging. So in here, we've got some different examples of how you can incorporate those values into your headings. This construction one from Scott, I love. Construction services driven by community needs. It's a really clear, lovely headline that actually talks about the community whilst also communicating what the business does. And I think a thoughtful headline can really move the marketing messaging in a nice way and incorporate green credentials beyond just the logo. The Valpak example that you can see on the furthest right, again, also has a great heading about working together towards a sustainable and waste-free world, and then actually has some really nice data underneath their hero image, which is great because when a user hits a page like this, it's really easy to take in that kind of data because those numbers stand out below the icons. Continuing a bit more on marketing messages and going sort of beyond the headlines, beyond the logos, and thinking about the context that happens around this. This one on the left on ecotricity, I really love this page. This is essentially like an about page timeline of what they've been doing to contribute to fighting climate change over the years. The next one that you can see in the middle here from Blockmesh, they've highlighted some really important figures for their business and then used a really clear sort of green button that you can see to pull out their sustainability initiatives and drive users on the website to read more. And next slide. This is a couple of social media examples, loop it into the community building and the messages that we want to send to our audience about our positioning and the things that we do as businesses long term. It's not like a one and done thing. It's things that they're regularly doing in the business. So that might be things like environmental initiatives. It might be things like volunteering on Earth Day. It might be charitable contributions that they're making. So you can see this one here: buy it, use it, break it, fix it, don't trash it, refurbish it. They're actually trying to encourage people to reuse products. The example from Vegware, this is for a webinar. They do regular transparency talks, which is a great name, to talk about lots of different topics. This example, top right, I would say is well worth looking up. This is Faith in Nature, and they had a really cool initiative a couple of years ago to make nature part of their board. And I would say that's a little bit gimmicky, but also a little bit great, where they essentially made Mother Nature a board member. And then in all big important decisions they were making within their business, they always decided to give a perspective from the environment, to give the green perspective before they make a decision. And I've seen an initiative similar, like happening in similar businesses off the back of what Faith in Nature did there. And then they shared a great YouTube video, which was quite fun to kind of explain what they're doing and how their business makes decisions.
Thanks so much for attending, everyone, and we really appreciate all of your time.
Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks, Ellis, for a great presentation.